The Nature Conservancy of Canada property is approximately 75 kilometers southwest of Millertown, about 3 kilometers from the southwest end of Red Indian Lake. This video is an introduction to the Lloyds River Valley Escarpment section of the Nature Conservancy of Canada property. Starting with the waypoints for the four corners of the Nature Conservancy of Canada property boundary, on September the 30th, an ATV trip to the Lloyds River Valley was made to identify the precise location of the northeast and southwest waypoints on the river shoreline. From Millertown, access is over the Lakeside Logging Road on the southwest shoreline, which is presently being upgraded by and for the Marathon Gold project. The bridge across Lloyds River is about 1 kilometer from the end of Red Indian Lake. The view downriver shows the southwest end of the lake, and from the view upstream one can see the bridge that marks the northeast starting point of the Nature Conservancy of Canada property. The section of that logging road across the river from the Nature Conservancy of Canada property follows the logging road from the Buckens Highway to the Virgil Road. With built-in GPS system on my ATV, the waypoints were programmed into the ATV GPS system so that as I traversed the logging road on the north side of the river, it would pinpoint the exact location to stop on the logging road opposite the waypoint as I approached. This is the photographic record of that trip, which was made to identify dominant features of the Nature Conservancy of Canada property and access from the logging road for a future in-depth study to further document features and adjacent details for wilderness protection. With waypoints programmed into my handheld Garmin GPS system, access from the road was a short distance down the north side embankment to the north shoreline directly across from the northeast property corner waypoint. A series of photographs were taken of the roadside access point and the south side shoreline to illustrate the escarpment features and shoreline points as shown on the satellite image. Also photographs looking upstream and downstream, along with a panoramic video from upstream to downstream. The next point of interest documented are the only two cabins on the shoreline adjacent to the Nature Conservancy of Canada property, which is across the river about 2 kilometers upstream from the northeast corner waypoint. Another logging road access feature is a gravel pit further west on the logging road, which could be used as a helicopter landing point for a team to visit the site and survey the river valley features shown in this video presentation. The next dominant feature of the Nature Conservancy of Canada property is a waterfall that cascades down over the escarpment from a pond which is 90% located within the Nature Conservancy of Canada boundary. This feature is at the beginning of a waterfowl flatland where the river is interwoven with islands and was not included within the Nature Conservancy of Canada property boundary. The reason this was not included is because this section was harvested by Abitibi, and the network of roads used at that time are still evident on the flatland area. My previous recommendation was for this property to be identified as a waterfowl refuge and be designated for protection with the Wilderness and Ecological Advisory Council, under whose jurisdiction it is presently mandated. A nomination was presented for consideration to the Wilderness and Ecological Advisory Council in November of 2021 for the review and protection of all aspects of the complete Lloyds River Valley ecosystem from King George V Lake to Red Indian Lake. Now, conversations on the world stage are demanding for 30% of all wilderness and ecosystems and wildlife be protected. This nomination for the Central Newfoundland Wilderness is a small part for urgent consideration within the planning for development of wilderness resources without any strategic plans for Beothuk country protection, just the name change of Red Indian Lake. With the environmental threat of wind power proposals, hydro development plans, logging operations without forest management, mining and exploration and development, now wildlife management, wetland protection, access road infrastructure policy, cabin and outfitter restrictions, all require a working policy frame of reference. Under the government policy of diversification, there has never been consideration for revenues to financially support the infrastructure of communities as Millertown, Buckens, Buchan Junction, or even give them a voice when distant voices of the indigenous community changed the name of Red Indian Lake. The environmental impact assessment for the Marathon Gold project was initiated after 10 years of exploration that scarred the wilderness landscape, as the logging operations have done since the acquisition of Abitibi Holdings have come under the management of Crown lands. Distant voices have raised their concern for the protection of the caribou migration route that once crossed the Valentine Lake Ridge, but has been non-existent since hydro development dams diverted the caribou from the western end of Victoria Lake to the eastern end, which is now threatened by other mining and hydro projects being discussed. Now, the protection of Beothuk country as a park for all reasons requires published policy guidelines on every aspect of the wilderness environment and wildlife protection that cannot be circumvented by the request of corporations, as with the Ore Resources request to disregard legislative guidelines for construction of a secure tailings pond and allowing them to use existing ponds as they did. Or will misinformed distant voices change legislation without consultation, as they did with the name of Red Indian Lake? The future protection of Beothuk country, for all those who now call it home, would be the greatest tribute to the Beothuk that once made this land their island home, a park for all reasons. They came and went without leaving any scars on the landscape, which cannot be said about those who have came and went since 1900. The Nature Conservancy of Canada's Lloyds River Nature Reserve is a very small area surrounded by Beothuk country. Like the Beothuk, all of the central Newfoundland wilderness area defined as Beothuk country has always been without protection from a wide range of stakeholders. Presently, without policy guidelines for the protection of our wilderness heritage, distant voices demand to be stakeholders in the furious search for another stakeholder. Not to benefit the present residents of Beothuk country, but will add another scar on the wilderness landscape. Evidence of that can be seen on satellite images, and without raising our voices to protect our future, we will continue to be spectators as distant voices dominate the discussion. Wanted voices from the wilderness to represent the communities Millertown, Buckens, Buchan Junction, Badger as a collective voice and not just spectators of the past, as in the past.